All right, so in an ideal world, when we're playing this kind of recumbent guard, we always have leg frames in the way until we decide to move into an underhook. But we don't live in an ideal world. This is 2022. We very obviously do not live in an ideal world. Fuck our lives. But we do have to have an answer for this. So assuming that our knee shield has been removed, or we just, we forgot that we were supposed to have it there. Basically, you're going to end up in a scenario sometimes where that leg is out of the way and pressure is starting to come in. If I don't do anything now, I'm pretty screwed. So we have to establish layers of frame. So ideally, I wouldn't just have my knee in your way. I would also have my elbow, my wrist, or my hand, my forearm, whatever the case may be, in your way. And this leg frame disappearing doesn't really change anything. But if I was, let's say if you back up a second, if I was doing this, maybe I'm trying to work on a grip over here to set something up, and this comes out of the way, I immediately go back to focusing on my upper body frames. I absolutely do not want somebody to connect their chest to my chest. I certainly don't want them to cross-face me and underhook me, but really just anything that involves your chest going against my chest and my chest getting flat is going to be a problem. So I can deal with incoming pressure by having these frames at a long range. I can also deal with incoming pressure if you think about frames in terms of not your torso, so you're just using your arms, that's one thing, but you can actually use your torso as a frame, provided you're framing against the ground at an appropriate angle. So even if I'm not able to, let's say, get my frames in the way, as Stephan comes in, I'm going to stay on my side and I'm going to keep my elbow glued to my body. So this allows me to prevent pinning pressure, and it allows me to start to work my way up into an underhook. So it's really important. One of my old instructors back in the day at ATT had this phrase, which is he would walk around and he would yell FF, which was short for if you're flat, you're fucked. So I don't want this to happen. I certainly don't want it to happen if you have an underhook and a crossface and all that. But ideally, I'm preventing that happening just by interfering. I can go both hands on your shoulders. This is also very effective. This is starting to rotate me towards my back, which is not a problem because I can just bring my knee in and I'm perfectly safe. You're not connecting your chest with my chest. So it can be shoulder, shoulder with my hands. It can be shoulder, shoulder with one hand. Obviously, I also need to monitor this for a crossface. I can grab your wrist as necessary. I can bring my knee back in. I can even take this foot back and put it on your hip. I can start to play like an open, close guard kind of scenario where I've got multiple frames. I've now got my shin in your way. I've got my shin in your way. I've got my forearm in your way. So as long as I keep you from connecting to my chest, I'm good. And if for whatever reason you're starting to connect to my chest, I'm going to make sure that I cover my head so that you can't cross-face me. So I don't want this sort of thing happening. My chin is down. My hand is on my forehead, basically like I'm running my fingers through my hair. And my elbow is glued to my body so that I don't give you the profile to slip underneath my elbow with any sort of wedge. So I actually want to have my elbow kind of, like if my elbow's over here, that is quite effective, especially if there's a lot of pressure and weight behind it. As Stephan's forearm or like wrist or even fingers start to slide into that place, even if I try to keep this really glued to my body, he's gonna like rotate through that. So I want to make sure that I actually bring my elbow a little bit below my hip line and connect, if it's available, if my belly's not in the way, if it's available, I want to actually connect my elbow to my hip bone. So if you try to slip under that, for one, you're just slipping on an angle towards the floor, so it's not really going to help you. Versus beside my hip, where no matter how isometrically strong I am, somebody will be able to wedge underneath this. So I'm bringing my elbow to here and then doing this. So I've set up a series of frames, this frame against my head to deny you the crossface, and the frame of my shoulders basically is preventing you from accessing my torso as a lever and pinning me on the ground. So this will save you if you're playing a half guard and your leg frames come out of the way. Either this or moving elbow down and hand on head like so. This will also prevent things like darces. It'll give you a lot of access to defending guillotines, gi chokes. This will put you in a really good defensive posture. Whereas once this elbow is open, even if you're not looking to underhook me for the purposes of pinning me flat. You could open my elbow and then shoot a darce and that sort of thing. So keeping this down here like this tends to solve that problem. So that's how we're going to establish our upper body frames to regain our leg frames, or just establish upper body frames to start to transition into underhooks, or just in general keep us from getting completely overwhelmed by pressure.